The maternity ward was unusually quiet that morning, filled with the soft beeping of monitors and the faint cries of newborns echoing down the corridor. For most families, this place symbolized hope, new beginnings, and fragile happiness. For Anna, however, it had become a battlefield. She lay exhausted on the hospital bed, her newborn daughter sleeping beside her, unaware of the storm gathering just beyond the thin curtain that separated her from the world. What should have been one of the most joyful days of her life was turning into something far darker, driven by the cold, unyielding presence of her mother-in-law. From the moment Anna married into the family, she sensed that she was never truly welcome. Her husband, Sergei, loved her deeply, but his mother, Galina Ivanovna, made no effort to hide her disapproval. Anna was never good enough in her eyes, too poor, too independent, too modern. Galina believed her son deserved someone better, someone more obedient, someone she could control. When Anna became pregnant, Galina's hostility only grew, masked thinly by forced smiles and cutting remarks disguised as concern. Now, standing in the maternity ward with her arms crossed and lips pressed into a hard line, Galina had reached the peak of her cruelty. She looked down at Anna not with compassion, but with irritation, as though Anna were an inconvenience rather than the woman who had just given birth to her grandchild. "I've said everything I needed to say," Galina snapped, her voice low but sharp enough to sting. "You can't stay here. Once you're discharged, you're not coming back to my son's apartment." Anna's heart skipped painfully. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, instinctively pulling the blanket closer around herself and the baby. "This is my family too." Galina let out a dry laugh. "Family? Don't make me laugh. You trapped my son with this child. I won't let you ruin his life any further." Tears burned Anna's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had endured years of humiliation, swallowing her pain for the sake of peace. But this was unforgivable. "Sergei knows about the baby. He wanted this child," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "Sergei is weak," Galina shot back. "He always was. That's why I have to protect him, from you." The baby stirred, letting out a soft cry, as if sensing the tension. Anna rocked her gently, trying to calm her while her own world threatened to collapse. She felt trapped, vulnerable, abandoned in the place where she should have felt safest. Galina turned away as if the matter were settled, already reaching for her phone, perhaps to call a taxi or make arrangements to ensure Anna had nowhere to go. Then, unexpectedly, the door to the ward opened. The sound was subtle, but it cut through the air like a knife. Both women turned. A tall figure stepped inside, his presence immediately commanding attention. It was Sergei. Galina froze. Sergei's face was pale, his jaw tight, eyes blazing with an intensity Anna had never seen before. He looked from his mother to his wife, taking in the scene in a heartbeat, the tears Anna was holding back, the way she clutched their child, the unmistakable posture of confrontation. Something inside him snapped. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice calm but dangerously low. Galina recovered quickly, forcing a smile. "Sergei, you're here early. I was just explaining to Anna." "You were throwing my wife out," Sergei interrupted, cutting her off. "Don't lie. I heard enough in the hallway." Galina's smile faltered. "You misunderstood. I was only thinking of what's best for you." Sergei laughed bitterly. "No. You were thinking of what's best for you. There's a difference." Anna stared at him in disbelief. For the first time since she met him, Sergei stood tall, unafraid of his mother's authority. He walked to Anna's bedside and gently placed a hand on her shoulder, then looked down at their daughter. His expression softened instantly, replaced by awe and love. "This is my family," he said quietly. "And no one, has the right to threaten them." Galina opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. She looked as though the ground had vanished beneath her feet. This was not the obedient son she controlled for decades. This was a man making his own choice. "You always told me where to go, what to do, how to live," Sergei continued. "But today, you crossed a line. If anyone is leaving, it's you." The silence that followed was suffocating. Galina's face turned ashen. She had come expecting submission, expecting victory. Instead, she was being dismissed, stripped of her power in front of the very woman she despised. "You'll regret this," she finally whispered. Sergei met her gaze without flinching. "No. I regret not standing up sooner." Galina turned and walked out without another word, her heels clicking sharply against the floor, each step echoing like a retreat. The door closed behind her, and for the first time, the room felt warm again. Anna broke down then, the tears she had held back finally spilling over. Sergei pulled her close, careful not to wake the baby. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "You were right. I should have protected you from the beginning." Later that evening, miles away from the quiet hospital room, another storm was unfolding under bright studio lights. On the Kelly Clarkson show, what began as a light-hearted interview with Blake Shelton took an unexpected turn. The conversation shifted toward personal boundaries, family pressure, and public scrutiny. Blake, usually relaxed and humorous, grew visibly tense as the discussion intensified. Kelly pressed him on a sensitive topic, and the atmosphere changed instantly. Blake's smile faded, his answers becoming short and guarded. The audience sensed something was wrong. When Kelly pushed once more, Blake shook his head, stood up, and said quietly, "I'm not doing this." He walked off the stage, leaving behind stunned silence and unanswered questions. For viewers, it was shocking. For those who understood the weight of constant pressure, it was painfully relatable. Back in the maternity ward, Anna watched her daughter sleep, feeling a fragile but real sense of peace settle over her. Life had forced Sergei to choose, and he finally did. Sometimes, it takes a crisis, a confrontation, a walkout, a breaking point, for truth to surface. Whether in a family torn by control or under studio lights filled with expectations, the message was the same: when boundaries are crossed, silence is no longer an option. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is stand up and walk away, from fear, from manipulation, from the wrong station you were never meant to arrive at. The maternity ward smelled faintly of antiseptic and warm linen, a strange mix that usually comforted new mothers. For Elena, it felt suffocating. She lay propped against white pillows, her body aching, her emotions raw, her newborn son sleeping in a transparent bassinet beside her bed. His tiny chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, unaware that the calm of his first days in the world was about to be shattered by adult cruelty. Elena had imagined this moment so differently. She thought her husband's family, especially his mother, would soften once the baby arrived. Surely the sight of her grandson would melt even the hardest heart. But reality was crueler than hope. From the second her mother-in-law, Marina Petrovna, stepped into the ward, Elena felt the air change. There was no warmth in her eyes, no joy, only calculation. "So," Marina said flatly, scanning the room as if inspecting a hotel she disliked, "you've done it." Elena blinked, confused. "Done, what?" "Given birth," Marina replied sharply. "Let's not pretend this was some miracle. Women do it every day." Elena swallowed. She had learned long ago that arguing only made things worse. Throughout her marriage, Marina had made it clear Elena was temporary, replaceable, never truly part of the family. Too ambitious, too outspoken, too unwilling to bend. Her son, Andrei, was Marina's pride and possession, and Elena was the woman who dared to take him away. Marina stepped closer to the bed, lowering her voice. "I spoke to Andrei. He's confused right now, tired, emotional. He doesn't see clearly. He loves our son," Elena said quietly. "He loves me." Marina's lips curled into a thin smile. "Love fades. Reality doesn't. And reality is simple. Once you're discharged, you're not coming back to our home." The words hit Elena harder than any slap. "What do you mean, your home?" "That's where I lived," Marina corrected. "You and your baggage will need to find somewhere else." Elena's hands trembled as she reached into the bassinet and gently touched her son's tiny fingers. Fear flooded her chest. She was exhausted, vulnerable, and suddenly facing the terrifying possibility of being homeless with a newborn. "You can't do this," she whispered. "I can," Marina replied coldly. "And I am. It's better this way. You were never right for my son." Tears blurred Elena's vision, but she refused to let Marina see her break. She turned her face away, focusing on her baby's breathing, anchoring herself to the one thing that truly mattered. Marina, satisfied she had delivered the final blow, turned toward the door. Then it opened. The sound was soft, almost polite, but it froze Marina mid-step. A man stood in the doorway, his coat still on, hair disheveled, eyes burning with emotion. It was Andrei. He had arrived earlier than expected, driven by a restless feeling he couldn't ignore. As he walked down the corridor, he heard his mother's voice, sharp, unmistakable, and Alina's strained reply. He stopped, listened, and with every word, something inside him broke. "What's going on?" Andrei asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. Marina stiffened, then quickly rearranged her expression into one of concern. "Andrei, darling, you shouldn't be here yet. You need rest." "I'm fine," he said, stepping fully into the room. His gaze moved from his mother to Elena, then to the bassinet. He crossed the room and looked down at his son, his face softening with awe and protectiveness. "He's beautiful," Andrei whispered. Elena nodded, tears finally slipping free. Marina sensed the shift and rushed to regain control. "Andrei, we need to talk." "Not in front of her." "There is no her," Andrei replied calmly. "She's my wife." Marina scoffed. "For now. You're emotional. You don't understand what she's doing to you." Andrei straightened, his voice firm. "I understand perfectly. I understand that while my wife was giving birth to my child, you were trying to throw her out." Marina's eyes widened. "I was protecting you." "No," Andrei said. "You were protecting your power." The words landed heavily in the room. Marina opened her mouth, then closed it again. She had never heard her son speak to her like this. Never seen him look at her without fear or obligation. "I spent my whole life trying to be the son you wanted," Andrei continued. "I let you decide things that weren't yours to decide. But this is my family. And you don't get to threaten them." Elena watched in disbelief as Andrei took her hand. His grip was steady, reassuring. "We're going home," he said softly to her. "Together." Marina's voice trembled with anger. "If you choose her, you lose me." Andrei met her gaze. "If loving my wife and son means losing your control, then that's a loss I can live with." For a moment, Marina stood frozen, speechless, her authority shattered. Then, without another word, she turned and left the room, her footsteps echoing down the hallway like a defeated retreat. The silence that followed felt sacred. Elena leaned into Andrei, overwhelmed with relief and exhaustion. "I thought I was alone," she whispered. "You never were," he replied. "I just took too long to prove it." That night, as Elena slept and their son dreamed in his bassinet, Andrei sat by the window, reflecting on how close he had come to losing everything that mattered. Sometimes, love demands confrontation. Sometimes, becoming a husband and a father means disappointing the person who raised you. Across the ocean, under the bright lights of a television studio, a different kind of confrontation unfolded. Blake Shelton, known for his easygoing charm, sat opposite Kelly Clarkson, laughing with the audience, until the conversation took a sharper turn. Questions about personal loyalty, public expectations, and private limits pushed him into uncomfortable territory. The mood shifted. Blake's jokes faded, his posture stiffened. When the line between entertainment and intrusion was crossed, he stood up. "I'm done," he said simply, and walked off the set. Viewers were stunned, but the message was clear. Whether in a hospital room or a TV studio, there comes a moment when silence becomes surrender. Walking away is not weakness, it's a declaration. For Elena and Andrei, that declaration marked the beginning of a new life, one built not on fear or control, but on choice, courage, and the quiet strength of standing together when it matters most.